Welcome to the Darkstream, Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com, and home of the human resistance to the robot revolution. As you know, last night we successfully vanquished the robots. I'm waiting to find out whether we're still keeping them suppressed. Let me know how the sound is going. Let me know if this is coming through or whether the robots have intervened again. All right, well, it sounds like we vanquished them. So this looks good. Peaceful Poster says JF is reviewing my book right now. I presume he is talking about JORDANETICS. It'll be interesting to see what he makes of it. You know, I know that he too is a Jordan Peterson skeptic, so it'll be interesting to see whether he thinks I've made a decent case or not. So anyhow, I don't know why I'm wearing this. I was testing the audio before, and I just realized I have no need to be wearing that. So anyhow, have any of you picked up JORDANETICS yet? If you've gotten started, what do you think? JF's first critique is the number of grammatical errors. Yeah, why am I not surprised? Anyhow, yeah, we always take an iterative approach, as you know. We get the ebook out there. We found that it's a lot better to have 1,000 eyes on it than 4 to 6. We'll get it cleaned up and then we'll come out with the print version. Anyhow, it's going to be interesting to see what the response of the cargo cultists is. It's very, very interesting to me to see how intensely negative the reaction was, especially to Milo's forward. And the thing is, they're not going to be able to hide from this. They're not going to be able to hide from the ideas that are in it. It's fine. Mr. B says JF is not happy about the first 5 chapters. Yeah, well, I'm not surprised at all, because I got the same response from someone else who I would say is pretty intelligent and pretty intellectual, and he was clearly disappointed because with the beginning, because he said, well, it's all this copy pasted stuff, and it's, it feels like filler. But it's not filler. It's absolutely necessary for the average Jordan Peterson fan, because what it shows them is how common their objections are. It shows them what their thinking is. Ironically, actually, it just occurs to me when JF is talking about the various grammatical errors and stuff that fill the first few chapters, it's entirely possible. I almost hesitate to suggest this. I'm simply suggesting it is possible that it may be unclear that I pasted the comments from the various videos unedited. I didn't correct a single spelling error. I didn't correct anything because I did not want to be accused of modifying in the slightest what people were saying in response to the Peterson videos, whether they were positive or whether they were negative. Now, I can't guarantee that, I didn't accidentally, correct a lowercase letter after a period or something. Oh, I have no doubt. I have no doubt that if you look at the speed that we put the book out, we didn't go through the usual multi-level proofreading, and you will understand why when the next books that we release in the next couple weeks occur. This book is important, and this book is very, very relevant, but we have a much bigger book. We actually have a pair of bigger books coming out before Christmas. So you'll understand that we have a limited ability to focus on these things. And the thing is, honestly, I could care less about that stuff. I mean, if people are, I always know when I've made my case successfully, because when people are focusing on typos and grammar, it means that you haven't made any errors of logic and argument. And so Ben Resnick says, you could add the sick notation to emphasize it isn't your typo. You clearly haven't read the book yet. There are probably 3 to 5 typos on every single YouTube comment that's quoted. And there's a lot of them in the first few chapters. And so, anyhow, like I said, I'm not concerned about it. I'm never concerned about it, because I've been published by Simon & Schuster, their Pocket Books division. And when we took their final professionally edited, professionally proofread, professionally line edited text that they published for The War in Heaven and The World in Shadow, we found an average of 220 typos when we converted them to ebook. So there are basically no books that are out there that are entirely clean. Obviously, you want to clean them up as much as you possibly can. We will. We do. We're actually one of the few publishers that does that. When with a Throne of Bones, if you get a Throne of Bones, then what you'll see is that we're on the 11th ebook edition now, and each time, we've corrected dozens, in some cases scores, of typos that we've collected and then fixed and so forth. So, if you want to make a list of typos, then just all you got to do is put the word with the misspelling in it, or the section of the sentence that you think was ungrammatical, put them all in one big text file and send them. Email them to me. We'll get them in. We'll get them fixed. And but don't send one at a time. So Dave says, congrats, Vox. One of the early reviewers has only reviewed one other book in the last 5 years. That's how important this book is. Anyhow, so the point is that I'm not the least bit bothered by it. Milo had mentioned the same thing. M. Anthony Dunn says, do you anticipate a frivolous defamation lawsuit from Peterson? There is no chance whatsoever that Jordan Peterson would ever even consider doing that. I would like nothing better than to have the opportunity to have lawyers ask him questions under oath. Trust me, I soft pedaled the case against him. Okay? It is entirely possible that Jordan Peterson is considerably worse than the case that I presented in the book. I did not make the worst possible case against him. And if you look at the questions, the 12 questions, in fact, let's do that. Let's do that now, because this is relevant, because we're talking about answering the Pharisees, right? So let me open this up here. And as you know, a lot of people have asked me, what questions would you ask Jordan? What questions would you ask Jordan Peterson if you had the opportunity? What question should I ask Jordan Peterson? I'm going to an event. I've got tickets to an event. I might have the opportunity to ask him something. What should I ask him something? Or what should I ask him? And so here are the questions that I came up with. First, the appendix is called 12 Questions for Jordan Peterson. And it begins with a Jordan Peterson quote, which says, "The truth is something that burns. It burns off deadwood, and people don't like having their deadwood burnt off because they're 95% deadwood." Now, that's a strange thing to say. If you're saying that people are 95% deadwood, you are probably referring, at least in part, to yourself. Okay? And actually, somebody just said, "I'm going to a Jordan Peterson event tonight. What should I ask him?" Well, you guys can all vote. I will mention the 12 questions that I suggested. And so, number 1, since you have said that Jewish possession of a mean IQ 10 to 15 points above the average is responsible for their societal success in the United States, is it correct to conclude that it is the African American mean IQ being 15 points below the average that is responsible for their societal failure there? I don't think he's going to want to answer that one, because the guy is a coward. And also, Jordan Peterson does not have the ability, he is not intelligent enough to successfully anticipate how to address obvious situations that are going to arise. The moment that you start crediting intelligence for societal success, then you have to similarly blame a lack of intelligence for a lack of societal success. But Jordan Peterson doesn't want to be seen as racist, and he will be called racist if he answers that question. So, of course, you can expect a meandering reference to slavery. Maybe if he's really on top of it, he'll come up with some sort of George Washington Carver quote. It depends on what you mean by African American, etc., etc. So that's question 1. Question 2. What is the longest you have ever gone without sleep? I just want to see how often he's willing to double down. I mean, he blatantly lied on the Joe Rogan show. So it would be interesting to see if he's willing to admit that he did, admit that he got confused. I can actually explain. I touch on it in the book, but I'll explain at some point in time what happened there. See, what happened there, and the reason that he lied like that is because he's a con man. And if you don't understand that link intuitively, I'll explain it on another live stream. Number 3, do you still feel that you will never be happy until you are elected prime minister? Now, that was something that he said when he was young. But it's very interesting because you see all of his fans, not all of them, but you do see a lot of his fans saying, well, he's not a politician. What they don't understand is Jordan Peterson is, by nature, a politician. He is a highly political animal. And so, he is precisely that really, really irritating dork who was always on the student council, was always the representative of his homeroom class, and always ran for, class president or vice president or something. So, number 4, have you ever taken part in an occult or esoteric ritual? Now, let's just say it will not surprise me if that happens to be true. It'd be interesting even just to find out what his reaction would be. My personal suspicion is that he would lie about it, and he would do so with that tell that he always has when he's lying. This one is just the obvious one given his past performance, but I had to mention it. Given that you are an outspoken fan of Alexander Solzhenitsyn, would you be willing to write an introduction to the English translation of his book 200 Years Together? I'm guessing I'm guessing the answer is no, I'm too busy. Number 6, did you ever experience physical or sexual abuse as a minor? Now, there are a lot of indications that something happened to Jordan Peterson at some point in time. You do not have that depression and guilt and shame and that obsession with suffering and so forth if something didn't scar you in your youth. So it'll be interesting. Somebody says he claims to have never read 200 Years Together. I'm guessing not. I'm guessing he hasn't. It doesn't even exist in a proper published English translation. But that shouldn't stop him from writing an introduction, in that he went and started delivering Bible lectures without bothering to read the whole Bible first. Let's see, number 7. You have said that you consider group identity to be dangerous and pathological. Do you consider yourself to be a Canadian? Of course, that would send him spiraling off into a long, long stream of baffle garble. Because, of course, how can he run for a Canadian prime minister if he can, the prime minister of Canada, which he wants to do, just so you understand. He tries to say he's not interested, but he absolutely is interested in it. Question 8. As a professional psychologist, how would you describe your mental illness in clinical terms? He talks about the drugs that he's been prescribed. So why? What is the clinical diagnosis that led to that? He is mentally ill. That's what you need to understand. He is absolutely mentally ill. That's why he takes the medication that he does. He is not mentally well. Question number 9. Have you ever been baptized as an adult in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit? That would be interesting to know, given that he doesn't like to answer the question about whether he's a Christian or not. But even if he did, could we believe him? Answering a very simple question about a historical event that either happened or not is very simple. Now, of course, if he applies his definition of truth and decides that it enhances his survival to lie about it, then he's telling the truth even when he lies. But, that's the situation that you're dealing with either way. Question number 10. Do you believe that you are destined to save humanity from destroying itself? If so, how would you identify the force or being that has chosen you to do so? He does believe that he is destined to save humanity from destroying itself. That's his whole purpose. Now, he may not believe that he's capable of doing it, but that's clearly what he's trying to do. Question 11. Have you ever been professionally diagnosed as a sociopath or a schizophrenic? This, who knows? But the fact that he is a self-admitted habitual liar, the fact that he is such a habitual liar that he may or may not qualify as a pathological liar. I'm not a mental health professional. I don't know what the official definition of a pathological liar is compared to someone who just who admits that they lie all the time or lie most of the time. But it would be interesting to know if he had ever been professionally diagnosed with either of those two specific issues. And then finally, and this is the most important question, what will you call yourself as the head of this post-Christian religion of the 12-rule path of balance for which you are presently proselytizing? The parapope of psychospiritualism? The tetrarch of therapeutic neothelema? Or the archprophet of the post-Adamic apotheosis? So I would personally vote for the archprophet of the post-Adamic apotheosis. It's got a little bit more of a properly religious ring to it. The tetrarch of therapeutic neothelema, that sounds a little bit dark. I don't know that, but he might go for that. I mean, if you look at how he likes to dress up, if you look at how he likes to, portray himself as some sort of plague demon, it's entirely possible that he might, prefer the tetrarch. But anyhow, those are 12 questions for Jordan Peterson that if you have the opportunity, you might find it interesting to ask them of him. Yeah, how much evil is allowable in the middle way? Because we don't want too much evil, but we also don't want too much good. So we don't know. It's really up for Jordan Peterson to let us know. But let's get back to the subject. The subject is answering the Pharisees. And what got me thinking about this is the way in which the trolls and shills and alt-retards and philo-Semites are constantly trying to trap people verbally. They're constantly trying to get you to commit yourself to a position in public that they can then use to discredit you. So, with me, they will bring up questions from articles that I've written 15 years ago that they think will be damaging to you. I'm sorry, I laughed because somebody just commented, I feel like you're slandering the good name of L. Ron Hubbard by associating him with Jordan Peterson. It is true. When I first started writing the book, I thought that Peterson was like a mix of Tony Robbins and L. Ron Hubbard. I didn't realize that it's more a melange of Deepak Chopra, L. Ron Hubbard, and Aleister Crowley. But yes, I mean, you see this even in Peterson's famous interview. So you're saying there's this constant attempt to get you to disqualify yourself, to get you to discredit yourself. And what it occurred to me that this is exactly what the Pharisees did to Jesus Christ. This is exactly what the people who are doing this, whether they're SJWs, whether they're conservatives, whoever they are functionally Pharisees. They are little Satans, by which I mean they are little accusers. And so when you look at what they're doing, that they are attempting to get you to admit that you're guilty, and then they will proceed to prosecute you. And so, how did Jesus handle that? And I think that, as in pretty much everything else, we're very, very well advised to follow Jesus' example, whether you're a Christian or not. What did he do? What did he say when they came to him? When they said, people are saying that you are the Son of God, that you are the King of the Jews, what did he say? And the thing that was awesome is that he answered both his enemies and his friends in the same way. He said, "Who do you say I am?" Because he knew what they were doing. He knew exactly what they were up to. And this was really meaningful for me. There's a question, wasn't he silent at first? No, we're talking, that was later. That was when he was actually on trial. So when you turn it around on them, what you're doing is you're making it clear to them, not only that you know what they're doing, but you're letting them know that you're not going to play along. That's why it's always a mistake to even answer the question honestly. It's a mistake to answer the question in a Socratic manner. You know, it's a mistake to answer the question in the Petersonian manner. Are you a racist? You know, the one instinct is to say, no, I'm not a racist. That's the basic one. The second response is to say, well, what do you mean by racist? And that's a perfectly reasonable response. You know, that would be more the Socratic response. But the thing is, it doesn't get you anywhere. And I know I know that from experience, because what I did I don't know, maybe 2 years ago or so, I said, okay, if you want to try to make the case that I am racist, bring it. Make the case. Here is the post. Here is the opportunity. You make your case. All you need to do is say, this is my definition of racist, and this is the evidence that that definition fits you. And what was interesting was that despite all the people who like to sling the label around, despite all the critics who like to try to claim that, only 3 people even dared to try to define it. And the only definition that they could even begin to make a case for was so wildly broad that it ceased to become damaging or discrediting. But that didn't change anything. It was a waste of time. And so but if you look at the response that Jesus Christ gives, who do you say I am? What do you say I am? You not only force them to try to make the case, you're forcing them to try to make the case from scratch. Somebody says, God hates racism. Whether you have inclinations, why would you say God hates racism? God commanded the Israelites to exterminate the people of Canaan. The people of Israel committed genocide when they wiped out the Amalekites. King Saul got in trouble for failing to kill enough of the Amalekites. To say that God hates racism is ridiculous. Racism is not listed as a sin anywhere. Show us in the Bible where God hates racism. God doesn't. Here's the thing. Hate is not sin. God cannot sin, and yet God hates. Ergo, hatred is not sin. However, we can ask you a question. What God is it that you believe hates racism? What God is it that you worship? Because clearly you cannot be talking about the God of the Christian Bible. So anyhow, you know, the more that you see, these cuckish, churchian, fake Christians trying to claim that hate is a sin, the more that you know that their yes is not yes, their no is not no, and as we're told, more than that comes from the evil one. Isn't hatred murder in the heart? How can hatred be murder in the heart? God hates. God does not sin. Even if hatred is murder in the heart, it cannot be sin in and of itself. But I would say that no, hatred is not murder in the heart. Where is that definition? Who defines hatred that way? So anyhow, it doesn't matter. The tribes that God ordered destroyed were worshiping false gods. Do you think the people today are not? Are you out of your mind? Do you think that would not justify, if you're going to use that justification, you have just justified genocide of at least half the human race, and possibly more. And so, anyhow, the point is, God created the nations. Satan attempted to inspire humanity to band together and build the Tower of Babel. The globalists are evil. The anti-nationalists are evil. There's no question about that. And anyone who says that they are a Christian, who is working to rebuild the Tower of Babel, is not on God's side, is not serving God, and is not worshiping Jesus Christ. They might believe in a God, but it's not God the Father. So, anyhow, it's pronounced, I don't know how it's pronounced. I have no idea. Babel, whatever. So anyhow, what I think what I think that you need to keep in mind is that there is considerably more depth and utility in the New Testament, even from a purely practical, purely philosophical approach. I am not at all saying what Jordan Peterson is. Oh, it's a symbol of this, it's a metaphor of that. It is real. It is material. And so I think it's a benefit to read it, even if you don't believe, in the same way that it's beneficial to read Plato, even if you don't believe in the historical existence of Socrates. I mean, did you know we have no actual evidence that Alexander the Great ever lived? I mean, it's a little bit suspicious, don't you think, that the greatest philosopher of the time, of all time, just happened to be the personal tutor of this character who then went on to conquer the known world and then died and was deified. I mean, if you described it in mythic terms, Alexander the Great would sound absolutely incredible. I mean, literally non-believable. But does that mean that it's not worthwhile reading Arian? Of course not. You know? And so I think that you should seriously look at the way that Jesus handled rhetoric, because it's a masterful way to address the situations that we run into very frequently today. I mean, we don't usually think of Jesus Christ as a rhetorical master, but it shouldn't surprise us that he was. And I think that there is quite a bit that can be learned from his example in the New Testament, especially in relation to how he handled the rhetorical attacks of the Pharisees, just as there's a tremendous amount to be learned from reading Aristotle's rhetoric. So that's all I wanted to talk about. I'm willing to I can stick around for a few minutes to take some questions if you guys are interested. Can't you make a video about relationship between Greek philosophy and Christianity? Probably not. I don't think that I'm sufficiently versed in either philosophy or theology to do so in a meaningful manner. Let's see. I always think of Satan and Pharisees when I see CNN. Well, there's good reason for that. Who would win, Alexander the Great or Hannibal Barca? I would go with I would go with Alexander. Hannibal was a great general. Alexander was probably the greatest of all time. How much money do you make per year? Probably less than you think. Vox, I'd be interested in reading The Irrational, presumably Atheist. So read it. The audiobook is out. The print book is out. It's in hardcover. It's an ebook. Alt Hero number 5 is being lettered now, so it's very close to release. Avalon number 3 is being colored now, so it's not quite as close to release. We expect to get both of them out before Christmas. We should also get the entire Jeeves omnibus, Right Ho Jeeves omnibus out as well. Have you ever searched the original Hebrew names, and do you see any importance in them? No, I never have, and I don't even know what you mean about importance in them, so probably not. Vox, will you write a tell-all book about Ben Shapiro? No, I'm not that interested in him. Did Reagan destroy California with amnesty? I would say more that Reagan destroyed America with no-fault divorce when he was governor of California. How long until Jordanetics comes out in paperback? I don't know exactly. We want to get all these typos fixed first. How do you feel about alt-right folks who promote homosexuality, transsexuals, and other degenerates as long as they are conservatives? I don't really care what the alt-right folks do. I don't really pay, I mean, other than one or two people that I'm friends with, I pay no attention to them whatsoever. Vox, what's the best, most biblical governmental form? Apparently rule by divinely appointed judge. I don't understand why existence of evil should be argument for existence of God. Could you explain that odd view? First, it's not an odd view. Secondly, I've already written all about it on the blog. Just do a search for problem of evil. I'm new. How long have you proclaimed Jesus as your Lord and Savior? For 23 years. Any further Scalzi parody novels to come? No. I think we've beaten that dead horse long enough. The Irrational Atheist is too expensive. I can't do anything about that. I don't publish it. That's Ben Bella. Is having such a high IQ more a blessing or a curse? It depends on your perspective. I think it's a blessing. Most people that I know would not, as miserable as they might get, they still wouldn't be willing to give it up for more popularity. Are you ever coming back to America? No. What do you think of David Duke? I think that he is a media tool who is used to discredit the right. Why do you think Jordan Peterson lied about not being able to sleep? Because he's a con man. Why bother with such a stupid lie? He didn't intend to lie. He was in mirroring mode with Joe Rogan, and Rogan threw him off with a interruption, and Peterson keyed on something that Rogan had said. I'll explain that in more detail later. What is the best way to know Jesus? Read the Bible and pray. Anyone who hates his brother is a murderer. Hate equals murder comes from that. Well, okay, but the idea that brother equals the entire planet obviously is not the case. Who is the author who said debunk Sapiens? That is from Christopher Hallpike, Ship of Fools. Are you a Catholic, Vox? No. What could cause the West to return to Christianity? The same thing that usually turns large groups of people to Christianity: hard times, the Holy Spirit, and Christian revival. If you were stuck on an island and could only bring one friend, who would it be? Friend has to be a dead political figure. I don't know. Okay. Anyhow, no, I'm not going to touch that. Got any preview ideas for when you hang out with Owen Benjamin? I have no idea what Owen wants to talk about. I mean, we'll probably talk about Jordan Peterson a bit, but I'm just gonna talk about whatever the big bear wants to talk about. What are your weaknesses, Vox? We don't have enough time for that. But arrogance, sloth, pride. I hate paperwork. Probably impatience. Let's see. Do you think Catholics are Christians? I think they can be. I don't think they are necessarily. Have you ever read the Book of Mormon? Yes, I have actually. I don't think I've read the entire thing. Opinion about CERN? I don't have one. Let's see. What do you think of Calvinism? I'm very dubious about it. If you look under debates, you can see a debate that I did against a team of, I think, 5 Calvinists, maybe 3 or 5 Calvin. It was basically me against Team Calvin. So if you want to get my perspective on that, you can look that up. Looking forward to the chat with Owen. Should be great. I'm looking forward to it. I like Owen a lot. He's a smart guy. He's a brave guy, and he's a funny guy. I mean, there's a lot to like about him, a lot to admire. What qualities to look for in a wife? I think loyalty would be number 1. Do you think Putin is a sincere Christian? I think he might be. Favorite muscle building exercise? Either straight up bench press or dumbbell shoulder press. Would we be better off if there were no gammas at all? Probably, yes. What type of Christianity do you endorse? Genuine? I don't belong to any denomination. I should actually, before I forget, JORDANETICS, it's out. It's the #1 bestseller in political philosophy. It was the #1 bestseller in spiritual self-help. Definitely check it out if you get a chance, especially if you're a Peterson fan yourself, or if you have friends who are. Will you ever tell what Indian tribe you are? No, I don't wish to cause problems for them. And you do look like an Indian. Not anywhere nearly as much as my mother and brothers. Bears, Bears, Bears. Sorry, Vikings fan. And we had that game if it wasn't for all the turnovers. What is your favorite color? It used to be blue. Now I'm not sure. JF is butchering your book right now. I'm not even remotely surprised. You have to understand, there is I may have made a mistake in my interview with him, and you get the impression that it's something that he's never going to forget. C'est la vie. I have no problems with him, no issues with him. Peterson helped write Agenda 21. No, that's not true. That's an exaggeration as far as I can tell. He helped write a UN special report called Resilient Planet, Resilient People. Best book on Alexander the Great. There's actually, you can see it right there. It's the Landmark Aryan, and it's the ultimate. Oh, now James says Jeff is singing some high praises. Okay, great. I mean, I have no idea. I don't know what he's talking about. People tell me he's ripping it apart, he's butchering it, he's talking about typos, he's saying. I have no idea. Okay, again, Jeff's a good guy. He's entitled to his opinion, and he spotted the downside of Peterson before I did. Give him all the credit. So, do you still have relatives living in America? Yes. Are you worried about them? Not particularly. Let's see here. Did you see Tucker Carlson's SmackDown Shapiro? No, I heard about that, but I haven't actually seen it yet. I'm not. Somebody said JF thinks your IQ is 116. I think that may be a. I think that may be a misunderstanding of what he said. But it's not 116. Let's see here. I mean, the thing that's kind of funny about this kind of stuff, when people all get on to the whole IQ thing, is, look, it's not that hard. It's a matter of public record that I was a member of Mensa. That's no big deal. But, there you have your floor. Also, I was a National Merit finalist. Again, you have a floor. All right. So it's not that difficult. And and in the event that, all I can say is, in the event that JF says I think my IQ is 160, or that I think it's higher than 160, but that's too high. I do not have a 160 IQ. I actually do have a friend, and I do have a friend of the family that both have IQs in excess of 170. They're absolutely brilliant. So I know what really ultra high IQ looks like, and I do not have that level of it. Let's see. Where did you get your IQ tested? Everybody did in the States at my age. Everybody took both the PSAT and the SAT, which at the time were actually IQ tests. That's why they were accepted until they changed the test and it became an achievement test in something like 1992 or so. maybe a little bit later. Anyhow, Owen is 147. See, Owen is probably old. Either he's, I don't even know how old he is. No, he's probably too young. But anyhow, with his dad being a but here's the thing. People overemphasize the importance of intelligence and IQ. One of my favorite people in the world scored in the 4th percentile on the SAT. Okay, do you have any idea how low your IQ has to be in the 4th percentile? I mean, that's basically you spelled your name in a manner that was recognizable. That's all you did right. I knew a girl, actually dated a girl in high school, and for a long time, and absolutely delightful individual, happiest person I've ever known. And the interesting thing was, her conversation could be almost as difficult to follow as Jordan Peterson's. Pure stream of consciousness. But no, this is not Space Bunny. But my point is that you can enjoy people, and you can like people, and you can even respect people who have very low IQs. There are plenty of people who are totally unpleasant to be around who have higher IQs than normal. In fact, the people that I tend to dislike the most are people with IQs of about the 110 to 120 range, because they think they're smarter than everybody, but relatively speaking, they're complete retards. And so they're just irritating all the time. And they're also insecure around people that they know are smarter. And so they're constantly challenging and constantly trying to impress you. And you just want them to shut up. So anyhow, yeah. And for example, Hillary Clinton has a very high IQ. She was national merit herself. And so, she's pure evil. So, anyhow, that's all I have. So, check out Jordanetics if you get a chance, if you're interested. Have a good evening, and we will look forward to seeing you at the next Darkstream.